which one of the following is a perfect square trinomial? Before we begin to solve this problem, we need to know the definition of a perfect square trinomial. So remember, a perfect square trinomial, if you have something in the form of x plus y squared, we get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. And if we have something in the form of x minus y squared, we get x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. Notice the difference between these two formulas. The only thing that's different is the sign. If we have a plus sign between the binomial here, we end up with the first plus sign here. If we have a minus sign, we end up with the minus sign. And this last sign is always positive. So in order to determine if x squared plus x plus y is a perfect square trinomial, we want to see if we can put it in this formula. So I'm going to write something squared plus 2 times something plus something squared. So I need to ask myself, is this number a perfect square? So in other words, can I think of a number or a letter that if I multiply it by itself, it's going to give me x squared? I can. So that's going to be x, and that same x, we write it here. Remember the x, we have it here and we have it there. And then this number here, if I take 1 and square it, I get 1. So I'm going to put, I forgot my other parentheses, that should be a 1 there. So if I multiply this middle term here, I get 2 times x is 2x times 1, that's 2x. It doesn't give me this middle term that I have here. So A is not a perfect square trinomial. Let's do the same with B. So let me see if I can write this right. I have something square, and then I'm going to use a minus sign. 2 times something plus something square. So y times y gives me this y squared. So I'm going to put the y there. Remember, we have an x here and an x here, but in this case the x happens to be a y. And then 3 times 3 gives me 9, so I'm going to put the 3 there. So I'm going to see if I get this minus 4y in the middle. So negative 2 times y is negative 2y, and negative 2y times 3 gives me a negative 6y. So you can see how I didn't get this negative 4y. So therefore B is also not a perfect square trinomial. Do the same thing with C. So something square plus 2 times something plus something square. So 2x times 2x gives me this 4x. So again, I write the 2x there. And then 5 times 5 gives me this 25. So I put the 5 there. We multiply these middle terms. I get 2 times 2 is 4, and then we have this x, so that's 4x. 4x times 5 is 20x. So again, I don't get that middle term. I didn't get 10, so C is also not a perfect square trinomial. So let's try D and see if that's going to give us an answer. So something square, again I use the same sign, minus 2 times something plus something square. So x times x gives me x squared, and I write it here. And then 10 times 10 gives me 100, so I need to write the 10 there. So then I get x squared here, and then from this middle term you can see if I multiply the negative 2 times the x, that's negative 2x, times 10, I get this negative 20x, and then plus 10 times 10 is 100. So you can see in this case we did end up with the correct middle term. So D is the perfect square trinomial. So again, you need to make sure that you know this formula here. X plus y squared is equal to x squared plus 2xy plus y squared, and x minus y squared is equal to x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. So it's important to know those formulas.